38-19, 21-point victory. Kind of a clunky game, though. A weird rhythm to the start of that game for the Oregon Ducks, and it kind of played out throughout the entirety of the 60 minutes of football where the offense struggled to get going. It was kind of one of those, there was long stretches where the offense just wasn't even on the field at times because you had the Brandon Johnson scoop and score.
Mm-hmm.
There was 7 minutes and 51 seconds of game time. So think of how long that is, right? If a 60-minute football game is usually, 3.5 hours long?
Yeah.
That's what we're really going with there. That was a half of a quarter, over half. It was 7 minutes, 51 seconds. That's, more than half a quarter of game time. Their offense was probably off the field for a half hour?
Yeah, God. That's a long time.
It was a long time. It was weird.
You get tight.
Yeah.
Like it's one of those things where you got
There's
to get the hip mobility work on the sideline.
It was a super weird rhythm to the game where, Oregon's defense looks like they come out and they make a stop on the opening drive, and then boom, a roughing the kicker. What'd you think of that roughing the kicker call? Where the punter drops the ball, it's on the ground, he picks it up, Dalen Austin comes in, kind of wraps him up as he's kicking the ball away. I still have not gotten a definitive.
I feel like if the ball hits the ground, it should be kind of an all bets are off situation.
Yeah, the ruling was that the punter established himself as a kicker again after dropping the ball, and because Austin didn't tip the kick, it was deemed roughing the kicker.
Then if that's the case, you know what you should do? To get these Aussie rules punters and have them grab the ball and throw it on the ground.
Yeah.
And pick it back up and then just shuffle and kick, because you know what's going to happen?
They're going to get hit.
You're going to get hit, and you're going to get a flag, and you're going to get a first down. Because if you want to talk about taking advantage of it, there was who was the kicker? Was it last weekend where that happened? Where it was an Aussie rules kicker that ended up making a massive big play where the ball bounced and he faked the kick, got the guy to commit on the dive, and took it off for a 30-yard run.
Little hezzy.
He got smoked. Absolutely smoked on the sideline. It was it might have been a Conference USA game. It wasn't a big game, but I just remember watching that play. It was another Australian kicker who was like, "I'm a rugby guy. I'll
take off and go.
I'm down to clown, but it was. I thought the same thing, but I thought he was very smart in that he used it against the player in much the same way that was it Josh Allen that did the fake slide?
No, Kenny Pickett.
Thank you. I'm getting my big white guys mixed up. Sorry. But I think that's, again, you're using the defense's aggression against them the same way Patrick Mahomes kind of did on the sideline a couple weeks ago.
Did you hear Mahomes yesterday?
No.
You didn't hear that? Somebody has audio of, they recorded on their TV, and Mahomes was running down the sideline, and he was doing his little, will you, won't you hit me thing. And after the play's over, he asked the official, "Will you let me know when he's close?" It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Will you let me know when he's close?
Are you kidding me?
Isn't that a weird thing to say?
It's on the sidelines too. It's totally got people tinfoil hat of the refs are helping them win.
Bro.
And obviously, it's Patrick Mahomes' voice because it's Patrick Mahomes.
Will you let me know when he's behind me?
Yeah, it was a weird thing. Will you let me know when he's close?
Hell?
I don't know. Was he was looking at the official, but was he talking to somebody else? He does no look passes. Maybe he does no look talking. I don't know. It was a weird thing.
Weird.
But there was that kind of started the weird rhythm to the game for Oregon and Maryland, though, is that when you have that roughing the punter, it keeps the drive alive. Maryland gets a field goal out of it. And one thing Oregon has been really good at all season long is they have jumped on teams early. And Maryland, coming out of a bye week, their defense was ready. And I will give Maryland deserves a ton of credit. Their secondary, they got dudes in their secondary. They look like Sunday guys in the secondary for Maryland. Up front, they are not nearly as good.
No.
But they got dudes in their secondary. They are long. They are physical. They basically took Idaho's game plan of, we're going to keep everything in front of us. We're going to rally to the ball. We're going to tackle well. And that's how they tried to slow Oregon down. And obviously, when you don't have Tez Johnson on the field, Trayshawn Holden got dinged up early in the game, and he ended up coming back. But he got it looked like he got a knee to either his calf or his thigh or something, and he was fine. But you sit there and you're like, the explosiveness just wasn't there because Maryland used that bye week, and damn, they look good coming out of it.
It's one of those things where you look at Maryland, if this was maybe Maryland's team from last year, where they had Tua's brother.
Yeah.
They had a little bit more.
That quarterback was pretty good, though.
Look. Old Billy Edwards has got a little bit of juice to him.
Billy does.
But he's more of he's the fun college football player.
Yeah.
Where, I'm sorry, Tua's little brother, I always forget his first name.
Talia.
Thank you. He would sling the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, he would absolutely fire that thing all over the field. And it's one of those things where it's like, if Maryland just had a little bit more juice, you're like, this could have been an interesting game.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I don't think Oregon was in any way complacent. I think Maryland executed a game plan to ugly things up.
Mm-hmm.
And Oregon won not on the margins, but like they won on being better in the trenches and better on the execution side of things.
Yeah.
Even as clunky as it was still like, all right, let's fire the diesel engine up. Let's go ahead and salt this thing away and take care of it. Because the thing that Maryland could not do was run the ball.
No. People are having a really tough time against Oregon with that. It turns out they're really good up front.
Yeah.
And look, Maryland under Mike Loxley, remember the last 2 years, in 2022 and in 2023, Michigan, they played Michigan to a one-score game, 34-27 in 22, 31-24 in 2023. Last year, their game against Ohio State felt a lot like this Oregon game. They lost 37-17, right? The year before that, 43-30. Like, Loxley gets those guys up for these big games, and that's something that they looked like they were answering the call in this one and played this one pretty tough. But for Oregon, when you look at, I know a lot of people are worried about the injuries. Jordan Birch left the game. It looked like he re-aggravated his ankle. I can tell you that he was up walking around on the sideline. Usually when a guy gets hurt in a game, they will take him to the tent, and then if it's bad, they take him straight up the tunnel. He's gone. They just took the tape off, and it felt like it was more of the, we're not going to push this. You're done for the day, but we'll see where you're at, coming up this week. I don't think that that's a serious one because they didn't put him in a boot. He wasn't on crutches, nothing like that. They just took the tape off and said, you're done for the day. Jordan James was legitimately trying to get back in the game, but at game 10 of the season, limit the contact.
They said, nah, dog.
No Whittington and Jade Lamar were fine. They were trying to just salt the game away and get out of there as healthy as they could. It's really weird that a 21-point victory, like the fan base felt completely different. It was the same margin of victory against Michigan. The exact same margin of victory. In fact, Oregon had to go in and punch in a touchdown at the very end of the game to make it a 21-point game, right? But it was just like, man, it felt like they were just going to come out and steamroll them. The third quarter woes, those continue to be an issue. The defense is still really good in the third quarter, though. I mean, they outscored them 8-0 in the third quarter. People want an explosion. I think that going 3 and out to start that third quarter when you get the ball, that was like, oh boy, what is going on with the offense? This is like we don't quite know, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they were up again, I think it was 21-10? 21-10 in the third quarter.
Yeah.
You're up by
That's at the
2
start.
scores.
Yeah.
The start of the third quarter, you're up 21-10. And then the next drive, they looked like it was going to be another 3 and out. And then you direct snap to Jordan Birch. That fake punt, dude, I thought it was Trayshawn Holden at first. Like when I was watching number 1 run, I thought it was Trayshawn Holden.
Very, very, very large man.
That dude
Boogie.
can move.
Boogie.
He can move.
36 yards?
Yeah, he was the second leading rusher for Oregon. 36-yard scamper. Jordan Birch, second leading rusher on the team for the game. But that was kind of that spark, and it reminded me exactly of the Colorado game, right? Last year when they direct snap to Casey Rogers. It was 13-0 at that point. They had defensive lineman in, who was the third guy over as a personal protector. Same look.
By the
Snapped it.
Jordan Birch
boom.
listed at 6'6", 295.
And he was moving.
Did you see related another large former Duck? Did you see Panay?
Yeah,
Dude,
which
that was
one? Which
unbelievable.
one
My
though?
God.
Unbelievable
He
how
was-
fast he was moving.
He was absolutely
He was outrunning
mauling.
Montgomery.
He was outrunning Gibbs. And Gibbs is faster. On the one play, he blocked 5 guys.
It was insane.
Yeah. And
On
then
a
Absolutely insane.
I mean it's like watching a grown man. It's like when you see those mascot games
Playing
and
with the kids.
The
Yeah.
Colts mascot
Uh-huh.
just absolutely dominates the little peewee football players. Penny Sewell's doing that in the National Football League. It's crazy.
For those wondering, I have a stats monitor at Moda Center that I can also change the channel on and watch football.
yeah.
Which I did for a part of the game last night.
Probably was
because-
better viewing.
Oh boy!
Boy.
I had people around me like, "Hey, how do I change the channel
yeah.
to that?"
Am I off base in this at this point? But I feel like that win against Maryland, you're in the playoff. If you're the Ducks. Like, I think you can look at it and say, worst case doomsday scenario, you're still going to get in at 10-2. Or am I wrong?
Well, if they'll have a conference championship game too. I don't think you're getting in at 10-3.
But if you go 10-2, you're probably not getting in the conference championship game.
Yeah, if they win this week at Wisconsin, I think you're in.
See, I think you're already in.
Yeah.
Because if you go 10-2, there you would have 2 Big Ten losses. There would be 3 teams with 1 Big Ten loss, or there'd be 2 teams, one with no losses, Indiana, and one with 1 loss, Penn State. I think you're in. I think you clinched a playoff spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Congrats.
Congrats on the playoff berth. No, I still think I believe they got to beat. If they beat Wisconsin this week, then I think that is when you go, boom, 11 wins on the season. That's kind of the marker and the identifier for no doubt nobody can kind of touch it. So I think that would be the one. But you're not wrong in that if they're 11-2, but you don't want to go 2 straight losses, right? Or 2 of your final 3. The playoff committee would eat that alive.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
and then that gives you an opportunity to get
No.
hosed
No.
coming late because there's going to be
Yeah.
a bunch of SEC teams that have the same record.
Yeah. Yeah. So one thing that happened though after the Jordan Birch fake punt, what was the number that Buck came up with? 920. That was the secret score earlier this morning.
Yes.
Mhm.
920 pounds of action on that drive because Jordan Birch gets the long drive or the long run.
No run.
You throw the ball to Janoris Wilson on the goal line, which if you were listening to the radio broadcast, you heard the referee come on before the game started. He comes on and he says, "Number 78 is now 91." That's Janoris Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
They knew they were going to the low red area. They were going to throw to Janoris Wilson. I mean, at the very beginning of the game, the referee announces the number change.
The number change. Yeah.
After that touchdown, 91 is now 78.
Mm.
So they were just waiting to get in the low red, and it just so happened it came after Jordan Birch. And then at that point, I think they just went, F it. Connerly, we're running the 2-point play. They didn't need 2 points. They didn't need the 2-point conversion, but they just went, we are definitely going to have Josh Connerly score this 2-point conversion. 920 pounds.
So the thought of that is that a, hey, we want to try this as opposed to pocket it?
I don't know. I just think it was you got the crowd back into it. We're going to send them over the top.
Let's go full big guy.
That was a spark and a pivot
Yeah.
point because like Autzen had like a weird feel around it. Like it wasn't nearly as loud.
Didn't have
it
the
was like
juice,
Maryland. It did.
Yeah.
It did. It was Maryland.
It's
coming
Maryland.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, that's Maryland
And they-
basketball in 2003. Like, all right.
Yeah.
Like, we're cooking with gas. All right.
That kind of got everybody back into it. You know, there was no Juan Dixon.
No Steve Blake. No Chris Wilcox.
No, but it got everybody kind of back into it. And I think, look, if those games happen for every team across the country, undeniably,
Mhm.
you have one of these games for every team across the country. If you have that game and you win by 21, that tells you a lot about the talent of the team. And I think it tells you a lot about kind of where they're at right now. Because one thing that is going to keep them in every game is the way their defense is playing right now. Their defense is playing lights out football. 3 turnovers in the game, you get 2 interceptions, you force a fumble, you get a scoop and score by Brandon Johnson. You created those extra opportunities, and this team is gonna be okay when you're playing defense. I see the text on the Vancouver Ford text line. I'm concerned about the Ducks for when they play better teams because both Idaho and Maryland have shown that the Ducks have trouble putting together long drives without explosive plays. They lack precision in their short passing game. They had a 14-play, 92-yard drive.
Yeah.
I mean, they did have that, but they did have a lot of drops in the game. The precision on short passing, Dylan Gabriel is very accurate.
Mhm.
They just had
That's the thing that he probably does the best. To be
you
honest.
had some drops though, and that is concerning. I also think that, as you look at it, just watching the offense operate, it was good. Tez Johnson was photographed and videoed on the pregame on the field. No sling for Tez. Walking around the field. I think that is good news, and you should be optimistic moving forward about the timeline of his return being potentially a conference championship game. But the gravity of Tez and what he means when you put him in motion, I think we saw that, right? Of how defenses have to account for 15 no matter where he goes on the field. Because if Tez Johnson goes in motion, which he often does, you have the corner over him, a safety, and a linebacker all have to shift their eyes and be aware of where he's going because he's not just fast, he is a precision route runner and will sit down, find soft spots. And so I think that without him, I think there is a little bit of a learning curve too. But Oregon won by 21. I wasn't overly concerned about anything that we saw. Anytime you play good teams though, you are going that concern of the texture. Yeah, of course it's going to be there. But I think that's for any team in the country. Putting together a long drive is the most difficult thing to do. And you got to figure out a way to create those explosives and take advantage of those opportunities because I thought the opportunities were there, but Oregon just didn't take advantage of them. And I'm not overly concerned right now because you win by 21, you get out of there relatively healthy, and now you're looking at a trip to Wisconsin.